Okay, so
this one is a big one.
Kind of interesting because it's a bit of it's just come in the news again. It actually happened a few years ago, but Mr. Richard Evans or Evertz or whatever you want to call him.
Yes, well, he's had a name change along the way.
And his company is called the Big Un.
Yes, or Big Unlimited.
Oh, Big Unlimited.
Yes, but Big Un for short.
Yeah. So the reason why he's in the news at the moment is he's now been charged with communicating insider information to a guy called Michael Ho, who was charged with insider trading and has actually been in prison, I believe, for 3 years.
Yes, that's
like
right.
That. So this all came back to something that started quite a few years ago, probably in about 2018 is when all this sort of came to light.
Yeah, exactly right. And I believe that Richard Evertz or Evans, whatever you want to call him, I don't believe he's actually been sentenced to jail yet. I think he's they can't really find him.
Well, yeah. He seems a little bit elusive.
Yeah.
So he's been charged and potentially could face 10 years of prison. They're having trouble serving any sort of orders on him. I believe they think he might be running a food truck outside of Walker.
Yes, I believe that there's also been reports that he may have been seen a few times in northern Sydney as well.
So but I think what I'm finding really interesting about it is what actually happened behind the scenes in 2017, 2018 that has caused all this. So, and actually just caused the massive collapse of his company. So let's just talk about Michael Ho first. So what happened for him was he was an investment analyst at a company that did invest in it. They would do venture capital essentially. And the information came across his desk about the Big Un companies. The main thing was this Big Review TV, which seems to be the main entity. And he saw that and said, looks pretty good. And he arranged an interview or a meeting with Richard Evans. But instead of doing this on behalf of the company he worked for, he actually invested on his own terms, which is insider trading, right? And so he put $80,000 investment in, and at the time that he was able to convert that into shares, they were worth $14 million, which is quite a significant increase on your $80,000 investment.
Definitely.
However, I'm guessing given that the company collapsed and he was charged with insider trading, it certainly wasn't a very good investment. So that was one aspect of it. But I think what I find so interesting was reading about how the company collapsed and why, and that was all to do with accounting.
Yeah, so they were kind of forging their figures, so their balance sheet and whatnot, they were changing the figures.
Yeah, so what they were doing, because I know you were saying to me I was trying to get my head around this, and just reading the articles about it, what actually happened was it was all down to how they were recording their revenue. And, there are guidelines as accountants as how and when you record stuff. And clearly the thing that gives you value of your business is how much you're selling. And, obviously we've got expenses on the other side of it. We've talked about it, what makes a profit. But if you're not selling anything, you're not going to be making any money. And when do we record that revenue? So what he was doing, and just let's go back and have a think about what this business is and try and put it into simple terms. So he had a business that did videos, and it was doing like a little video thing for like cafes or
hairdressers and things like that.
So I'm guessing he would record a video and you could play it at your business and people could be watching it while they were there, or whatever they were doing with it, right? So it's sort of like a promotional video. And apparently what they were doing was they would actually go and sign people up, record a video, and then when they had a look at it, they had the option to then pay $1,000 a month or $12,000 for a year to have that video at their premises. Now, they didn't have to take that on. That was a choice that they would make after that video had been prepared and whether they were going to do that or not. And apparently a lot of people didn't. What he was doing, though, was at the time that they signed on, he was recording that they were going to be earning $12,000. So that was the first aspect to it. There's no guarantee they're going to get that $12,000. In fact, quite a lot of those people they were going to get nothing out of. But then what he also did was he went and sold those invoices to basically an invoice funder. So we call it factoring, which is, so factoring is kind of the word I would use to describe it. So if you are in business and you're trying to get your invoices funded because you know that you want to get that money now, you've made the sale, you want to get the money now, but it might take a few months for the client to pay or whatever, you can actually get those invoices financed. So they were getting a company to do that financing for them. But rather than actually sending them the invoices or any substance, they were really just giving them a list of who they'd sold to, and they were getting money for that. And then they were recording that as income too, from what it looks like. So
they were doubling up.
Yeah. So what they ended up recording as income was actually just debt, and it was like there was quite a substantial amount of debt that was recorded as income. Now, in 2017, these guys were like an ASX high performer.
I think they were the highest performer for that year.
Yeah, and it was all based on basically crap that was being put into their accounts.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who are in trouble for it. The accountant who did it. The accountant who did it also then organised the audit, and the audit was done essentially by the same people. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and just unpacking it. But yeah, spectacular fail.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of one of those things that you think they might make a movie about or something like that as well, because it is a bit juicy.
Yeah, there is a bit of stuff beside, even the guy, Richard Evans, like he was apparently, was the one who was forcing this sort of behaviour within the accounts. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's, we always, we see it here all the time where little companies get things wrong. We fix it, okay? That's part, like we don't expect that, someone who's a tradie or whatever knows how to account as well as maybe I should, right? But to have a listed company having a accountant allowing this sort of thing to go through, where it, when you're an ASX listed company, you've got a very high standard you're meant to be maintaining. It has to be audited. So the auditor, it's like there's so much going wrong here, and crazy stuff.
It is crazy, yeah. And so it's all kind of unfolded on them.
Yeah. So anyway, if they find him, I'm sure he will get charged with. He does deny that he did pass that information on. I think it's interesting that the charge that he's going to be charged with is providing information to someone who kind of ended up probably not benefiting from it in any way. So how they would actually prove that might be interesting. But anyway, it was good for them to bring the story to light for us.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so there you go. Accounting is important.